Hello，大家好，我是老唐。今天是加拿大萨省时间2023年6月7号。最开始开这个频道是为了锻炼自己的这个自控力啊，然后起了个标题叫“每天阅读10分钟”。然后上一次阅读是6月1号，就断更了差不多一个星期了。想通过这样每天阅读的这个 flag，然后让自己养成这个爱上阅读的这个好习惯啊。嗯。然后前几天，朋友推荐了一本英文书，然后我这个英文的阅读和口语能力也是一般，第一次尝试去想要把一本英文书给读下来。所以这个完全是相当于是线上打卡，不是为了这个视频能创造多少流量或者多少粉丝，就是希望能看到这个视频的朋友能够大家互相勉励啊，然后养成阅读的好习惯。看看多长时间能把这本书给读完。这本书是叫拿破仑 Napoleon Hill 写的《Grow Rich with Peace of Mind》，是在1967年的时候出版的。那个时候他已经是84岁了。我已经读了这本书的前言的部分。他曾任好几任总统的那种 consultant 顾问啊，是一个很成功的人，至少是比较有钱啊。那这本书很有意思的地方就是 grow rich with peace of mind，你变得有钱的同时还能有 peace of mind，哎，这个就有意思了。好，我们接下来正式开始去读这本书吧，啊，看看要用多少天才能把这本书读完啊？这本书一共有241页啊。第一章，Knowing your own mind, live your own life. You have a great potential for success. But first, you must know your own mind and live your own life. And then you will find and enjoy that mighty potential. Become acquainted with your inner self, and you can win what you want within a time limit of your own choosing. Certain special techniques help you win the goals of your dearest dreams, and every one of these techniques is easily within your power. You have a great potential for success. First, you must know your own mind and live your own life. Know your own mind and live your own life. Somewhere along the path of life, every successful man finds out how to live his own life as he wishes to live it. Somewhere along the path of life, every successful man finds out how to live his own life as he wishes to live it. How to live his own life as he wishes to live it. The younger you are when you discover this method power, more likely you are to live successfully and happily. Yet even in later years, many make the great change from letting others make them what they are to making sure that they make their lives to their own liking. The creator gave mind the prerogative of power over his own mind. It must have been the creator's purpose to encourage man to live his own life, think his own thoughts, plan his own goals, and achieve them. Simply by exercising this profound prerogative, you can bring abundance into your life, and with it, know the greatest wealth of all, peace of mind, without which there can be no real happiness. You live in a world filled with outside influences which impinge upon you. You're influenced by other people's acts and wishes, by law and custom, by your duties and your responsibilities. Everything you do has some effect upon others, as do their actions upon you. And yet, you must find out how to live your own life. Use your own mind. Go on toward the dream you wish to make real and solid. Know the self, said the ancient Greek philosophers, and this remains key advice for the man who would be always wealthy. Without knowing yourself and being yourself, you cannot truly use the one great secret which gives you power to mold your future and make life carry you the way you want to go. Let us then taking off our trip to Happy Valley. Do not think of me as a backseat driver. Rather, you're at the wheel and I merely call your attention to trustworthy roadmap whereon the main highway is marked beyond question. On your journey to riches and peace of mind, the road grows smoother and straighter as you travel. Never believe you don't have what it takes. Never believe you don't have what it takes. Probably you're reading under an electric light. Without that comes an addition. Give the first practical electric light to the world. But did you know that Edison was thrown out of school in the early grades after his teacher decided he had an adult man and could not take schooling? This then was the impact of another person's opinion upon Edison to let him know with a voice of authority that he didn't have what it takes to absorb even a primary education. Where would he have been if he had allowed this directive to take charge of his thinking? Fortunately for him and fortunately for the world, Edison decided to live his own life. Through early adversity, adversity, Edison discovered something he might never have learned through formal schooling. He learned first that he had a mind he could control and direct toward any desired end. Then he learned he could use the technical training of other men and successfully direct scientific research even through he himself never had been schooled in any of the sciences. When he took full possession of that adult man, it produced not only the incandescent life, but also one great discovery after another. Never believe you don't have what it takes. A boy finds a friend and finds himself. I too was nearly doomed by a false label of unworthiness, unworthiness. Okay. I was then 9 years old. My mother had died a year before. I lived with relatives. To them and to my own father, I was a problem child. never would accomplish anything safe, perhaps what a life of what a life of crime can accomplish. I was doing my best to live up to my reputation as the successor of Jesse James. I even had a six-shooter, which I had learned to handle like an expert. Then a certain woman came upon the scene and she changed my life. This woman was my stepmother. Long before she arrived, I had been thoroughly conditioned by my relatives to hate her. I found this very easy to do. She arrived, and my father brought her to our house where the relatives had gathered to meet her. He introduced her all around. At length, he found me where I stood in a corner doing my very best to look tough. And here, said my father, is your stepson, Napoleon. Beyond doubt, the meanest boy in West County. We don't expect much good from him. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts throwing rocks at you by tomorrow morning. At the moment, I believed my life hung in the balance. It was a wise and wonderful woman who placed her hand under my stubborn chin and raised my head so that she could look me squarely in the eyes. She said only a few words, but they lifted me onto an entirely new level. Turning to my father, my stepmother said, "You're wrong about this boy. He's not the meanest boy in West County or anywhere else. He's a very alert and intelligent boy, and all he needs is some worthy objective toward which to direct his very good mind." That was the first time in my life that anyone has said anything good about me. I straightened up, threw out my chest, and grinned. Then and there I sensed that the woman who had come to take my mother's place, and my relatives refer to her, was one of those rare people who can help others find the best that is in them. One of those rare people who can help others find the best that is in them. That was the end of my six-shooter days. Increasingly finding myself as I grew older, I discovered my talent for writing. My stepmother helped me master the typewriter. With the aid of typewriter, I became a writer for newspapers. Through that experience, I qualified to interview successful men. And thus I came to sit down with Andrew. Out of that interview, which ran on through the better parts of 3 days and nights, came my commitment to search out the secret of successful achievement, not merely as a matter of words, but as pattern of definite action in the lives of men who have achieved great wealth. Out of this grew the organization of the science of personal achievement, which has reverberated around the world, bringing prosperity and peace of mind to millions of men and women. Great artists also live their own lives, or they could not be great. One of the great opera stars of all time, Madame Hey, Hey, as a young girl, went to music teacher to have her voice tested. He listened a few minutes and then said, "That's enough. Go back to your sewing machine. You may become a first-class seamstress, a singer." No. Remember, that was the voice of authority speaking. The girl could have been forgiven for deciding then and there that she would never sing again. Yet she hadn't kept possession of her own mind. She became all the more determined that she would learn to sing and to sing well. This she did, and the world became richer. So it has been with many another case in which great personal talent might have been lost forever if she, possessor of that talent, had not felt it even when the experts said it was not there. Adversity, it's a tonic, not stumbling block. Every adversity carries the seed of an equal or greater benefit. It's a tonic. Every adversity carries the seed of an equal or greater benefit of adversity. Very few march straight to success without going through periods of temporary failure and discouragement. Yet, when you are in possession of your inner self, there is no such thing as a knockout blow. You may be knocked down, you can bounce right back. You may detour on rough roads, but you always can find your way back to the paved highway. You may think this applies only to simple matters. Think then of the if of the complex matter of winning the independence of a colonial territory, and not only that, but of focusing the many scattered influences which make sure you become the country's first president. Thanks. In 1910, I became the personal counselor of Manuel Hazel. I not only consult him politically, but perhaps more importantly, I taught him the science of personal achievement, which then was quite new. Senior Quezon was the first president of the Philippine, uh, Philippine Islands when they gained their freedom in 1910. However, that time was far in the future. The goal of freeing his people possessed Quezon's mind, and he saw himself as the first president of the new nation. I assured him he could realize both ambitions, yet we knew that such great events do not come to pass overnight. There is a well recognized power in setting up a definite goal. Few, however, realize the power of setting a realistic time limit in which one intends to attain that goal. After having consulted Senior Kazon for some years, I induced him to set a definite time limit for freeing the Philippines and becoming the new nation's leader. I also prepared an affirmation which he repeated to himself daily. I closed with a statement of this nature. I will allow no person's opinion, no influence to enter my mind which does not harmonize with my purpose. Both the time limit and the formation were of great to help Kazun in knowing his own mind and keeping his own direction in the face of enormous difficulties which beset him. 24 years and 6 months from the day Kazun began to use the science of personal achievement, he became the first president of the Free Philippine Islands. Confidence? Confidence despite a world war which intervened intervened and many other factors which were not foreseeable. I do not think it was a coincidence, for I have seen the principle of personal achievement work with so many people in so many different situations that coincidence must be ruled out. We shall touch upon the principle again. Right now, I shall tell you about just one man presently doing business in Chicago who has used it with notable success. W. Clement Stone was in high school when he discovered his own goals, his own direction in which the powers of his own mind would take him. Soon he was selling insurance at such a rate that he made more money than his teachers. Today, his fortune is estimated at more than $160 million. It is increasing rapidly. In 1939, however, he faced a disaster. At that time, he was the head of an agency representing a big casualty company, which sold a special accident health policy. One day, the parent company pulled the string and terminated his contract with 2 weeks' notice. Mr. Stone did not have large reserves. It was imperative to keep that contract going. He spent 45 minutes in refreshing his contract with his inner self. Then he decided that within those critical 2 weeks, he would persuade the karate company, who was against their own best interest, to terminate his contract. The company had very pungent reasons for ending the contract. Nevertheless, they did change their mind. They did change their mind as he wished them to. Stone kept, and Stone kept on marching toward his fortune. He then decided that by 1956 he would own his own big health and accident insurance company, and by 1956 he did. He decided that by 1956 he would have a $10 million of his own. He did. I heard recently that Mr. Stone has set up a lifetime goal of $600 million. I do not know his deadline date, but I have no doubt that on or before that date, he will have the stated sum. But further, that he will use a good part of it, as he always has used his money, to benefit mankind. The concept of $600 million may frighten a man who thinks small, but a man who knows the secrets of personal achievement merely says, why not? A little while ago, I made a survey for the purpose of learning what the 10 men who had made the most outstanding application of science of personal achievement in the United States. W. Clement Stone was third from the top of the list. The other two were Andrew Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie, the sponsor of my 20 years of research, and Thomas Edison, Thomas Edison, the greatest inventor of all time. Science of personal achievement. The science of personal achievement. Okay. I met Mr. Stone for the first time in 1953. It was then that I began to unravel the dramatic story of his rise to fame and fortune, starting in business for himself with only $100 in cash and a copy of my best popular book, Think and Grow Rich. I was so intrigued by the effective application Stone had made of my success philosophy that I accepted his offer to help him take the science of personal achievement to his entire insurance personnel. The task covered 10 years, during which I devoted all of my time to helping Mr. Stone indoctrinate his entire organization with my success philosophy. It was a tremendous job, but it paid off in terms which proved conclusively that my 20 years of research under the direction of Andrew Carnegie had uncovered a miraculous formula for helping people to get from where they were to where they wished to be in life. When I first began my association with Mr. Stone, many of his top executives frowned upon the alliance as being a waste of time. They never heard of a success philosophy based upon what 500 outstanding men had learned from a lifetime of experience through the trial and error method, and they were naturally suspicious of it. 5 years later, these same executives met with Mr. Stone and myself in a business conference. To my great surprise, Mr. Stone arose and addressed himself to the group. Gentlemen, said he, the combined insurance company, CIC of America, Combined Insurance Company of America is now performing miracles. And a long pause, after which he said the company was performing no miracles before Napoleon Hill came here. When I began my association with Mr. Stone, the annual premium income to policyholders was around $24 million, and Mr. Stone's personal fortune was estimated to be around $3 million. When the association was discontinued by mutual consent 10 years later, the annual premium income of the company was around $84 million, and Mr. Stone's personal fortune was estimated to be more than $160 million. 是公司的从24到84美金，个人的从3美金到160美金。How much did I get from the association? 因为 wish to ask. The cash I received was negligible in comparison with that which Mr. Stone received. I was not working for monetary reward. I was after something far greater than that which could have been gained by any amount of money. For I had proved during those 10 years of association with Mr. Stone that the science of personal achievement could perform miracles for those who embraced it and made intelligent application of it. More important still, I had laid the foundation for the Napoleon Hill Academy, which is now organizing and conducting franchise schools for the teaching of the science of personal achievement throughout the United States, and eventually will reach throughout the free world. The far-flung significance of these schools may be brought into understandable focus by the fact that the science of personal achievement has turned out to be a perfect antidote for communism, something I had not anticipated when I began the organization of the philosophy in 1908, which reminds me that truly man proposes, but God disposes. It may well that it may well be that the science of personal achievement will become a strong factor in neutralizing the cancerous evil known as communism which now threatens the liberty of all mankind. The science of personal achievement is already under option to a group of mine who are having it translated into Spanish for the purpose of taking it to the people of all Spanish-speaking countries, starting with our Latin American friends of the South. I plan eventually to have the philosophy translated into all the major languages of the world. So, who is wise enough to say that what I got from my 10 years of association with W. Clement Stone, or wise enough to understand the hand of fate which brought the two of us together? The dramatic story of Arnold Reed. Arnold Reed is another insurance executive whose life story and its relation to the science of personal achievement parallels that of W. Clement Stone. In many respects of his story, as it related to the success philosophy, is more dramatic than the Stone story. Mr. Reed was a top-ranking life insurance salesman with a record of sales productions seldom equaled by anyone in this field. Mr. Reed's sales started at around $1 million annually and pyramidded upward far beyond this amount. He was associated with an insurance company headed by a man whom he regarded as his personal friend. Unfortunately, how was it? Arnold had not read carefully the fine print of his contract with the company, but he learned later that it contained a clause which deprived him of his renewal premium commissions, the one factor in an insurance salesman's work which gives him his greatest incentive to do a good job. The discovery shocked Arnold so severely that he went home and went to bed, refusing to eat or to communicate with his friends. Doctors were called in to diagnose his ailment, but not one of them could find anything wrong with him physically. It was not his body that was sick, it was his soul. The shock he had experienced through the perfidy of his friend and the friend had cut the line of communication between him and the source of inspiration, which had made him a great life insurance salesman. That source which alone can make man truly great. Slowly but surely, Arnold Reed was dying. His ailment was one that no doctor could cure. The doctors who had attended him knew this and frankly admit, admitted that they could offer no hope. Then a miracle happened. A friend of Arnold's, who had long been a student of my success philosophy, visited Arnold and presented him with Think and Grow Rich. Here's a book, he told Arnold, which has worked wonders for me and I want you to read it. Arnold took the book, threw it on the bed beside him, and turned away without comment. Hours later, he picked up the book, opened it, and lo, something in it caught his eye, and he read it through. Then he read again and again. And on the third time around, he felt the surge of the power which he repeatedly recognized as one which could bring him out of the dungeon of the despair into which he had fallen. He got out of bed and began to write letters to his friends who knew of his record as a life insurance salesman, offering them an opportunity to join with him in organizing a life insurance company under the name of Great Commonwealth Life Insurance Company. The friends responded quickly and generously. The amount of money needed was oversubscribed, and much of it had to be returned to the senders. All of this took place at about the time I was beginning my alliance with W. Clyman Sloan. Now, some 12 years later, Great Commonwealth Life Insurance Company is one of the most successful in its field, with a gross premium income of over $9 million in 1966 and rapidly increasing toward a new goal, which Arnold Reed has set $1 billion annually. The company is operating in a major portion of the United States, and it has a sales organization of over 400 dedicated men and women who have turned in and drawn upon that mysterious power and brought Arnold Reed out of the shadows of death. And they are doing a job that is without parallel in the insurance industry. industry. The Great Commonwealth Life Insurance Company conducts schools in many parts of the country in which new recruits to its sales force are trained. The first thing each trainee receives is a copy of Think and Grow Rich and a briefing on what this book has done for Arnold Reed and the company. The last time I spoke to the sales organization of the Great Commonwealth, Arnold Reed marched onto the platform holding me by the arm. He held up a copy of Think and Grow Rich as he said, "My friends, if it had not been for this book and my dear friend here on my left, there would have been no Great Commonwealth Life Insurance Company. I would now be 6 feet under the ground." It was the shortest and the most dramatic introduction I had ever experienced, and it filled me so deeply with emotion that I could hardly begin my speech. Arnold Reed is a truly great leader of men, and evidenced my phenomenal record he has established with great Commonwealth. The main secret of his leadership is his belief in what he is doing and his sincerity in his relationship with his associates. Two qualities, two qualities without which no man may become a great leader at any level of life. The first will be one's belief in what he's doing and his sincerity in his relationship with his associates. A success conscious man functions rapidly and effectively. Success conscious. In my hundreds of interviews with men who had made fortunes, I noticed how well their minds were focused on success. Some of these men were well educated. Some, for example, Harry Ford, were notably uninformed in some areas of school learning. It never was the formal education or the lack of it which gave these men the power to use their minds with such drive and effect. Nor was it unusual intelligence. What was it, then, which impelled their minds to seize upon great goals? That we know all the circumstances of life and make sure of what could help them achieve their ambitions. It was success consciousness. First, you must know your own mind. Then you find success consciousness. When Harry Ford mastered the art of making a good, inexpensive automobile, he still went on using his success consciousness. He had to make sure his cars were well distributed and their sale pushed in every part of the country. For this, he needed capital. The bankers had capital to lend, but he did not want outside financial interests to take hold of his company. But truly efficient man showed him the way to get the capital he needed, even while he built up his distributing organization. First, he allowed his entire output of automobiles only to distributors who held the Ford franchise. Then he made it clear that each distributor must accept a fixed quota of parts, advancing in cash a percentage of his purchase price before the cars were delivered. This plan made every distributor practically a partner in the Ford business, yet it did not affect Mr. Ford's control of the business. Again, without affecting his control, it provided him with the necessary operating capital. Moreover, it provided his dealers with a very definite incentive toward finding a buyer for every car, actually the same incentive they would have had if they had been operating their own independent businesses. I have heard it said that this plan worked a hardship on some of the Ford distributors, having known some dealers since before the Model T car. However, and having looked at today's record, I can say that most Ford dealers are noteworthy for their success. Two bicycle mechanics gave the world its first successful airplane. What kept their minds clicking caused them first to build the world's first wind tunnel, caused them to find the secret of wind tape control, which nobody else had thought of. What caused them to surmount limitations of material and of power, which still make that first flight look impossible? First, they took control of their own minds and their own lives. Then they were guided by the success consciousness, which always follows success consciousness. Take control of your own minds and your own lives. Is today's world different? Only in some details. Take such a device as a memory core, a tiny magnetic magnetic gauge gadget, which operates by the thousands in many modern computers. 啥玩意儿？记忆芯片啊，记忆哦。The Red brothers did not know of such things, nor did Henry Ford and or Andrew Carnegie or Thomas Edison. A young man named Marlin in 1955 looked at the rapidly growing computer age and saw what every age offers, a need and a way to fill it. He started to manufacture memory cores in his basement. His first investment in tools and supplies came to $7.21. His first employees were friends and neighboring housewives who pitched in. Today, not yet 40, Mr. Michelson still makes memory cores. He is president and 75% owner of a 16 billion million year company. And the company stock and the company stock he holds is worth about $47 million. Okay. 真的，没几短哈。Can success consciousness be instilled into a man already filled with a record of failure? 成功意识 When you come to know your own mind and live your own life, you can wipe out a record of failure just as surely as you can erase the message on a recorder, leaving a wonderfully receptive tape for man to receive new and better impressions. Some people have been able to do this for themselves, others need help. I well remember a man I helped to find himself. As you will see, I got him started, and once he knew where he was going, he did the rest. This was a dead broke man just out of the army. I believe he used the army as a refugee. Okay, but eventually he was back in civilian clothes looking for a job. The mere mention of hard times seemed to be enough to flatten him. He was shabby, he was hungry, he was willing to settle for crumbles, crumbs, if only he could get them. He came to see me about finding work. At the outset, he announced, all I want is a place to sleep and enough to eat. A place to sleep and enough to eat in a world that throbs with riches. Something prompt, something prompted me to ask, why settle for a meal ticket? How would you like to become a millionaire? He looked at me with glassy eyes, saying, please don't joke with me. I assure you I'm serious. Every man has some kind of assets. And every man can turn his assets into $1 million or many millions if he uses them correctly. He sighed. What do you mean by assets? I have a nickel in my pocket. Bring your man around the positive side, I said, and you have the most important asset you will ever have. We will work on that. Now, let's take inventory of your skills. Sit down, we will talk better. What did you do in the army? He had been a cook. Before going into the army, he had been a fuller brush salesman. He was a good cook, I discovered, but obviously he had not been a good salesman. Still, he knew something about selling, and in talking to him, I discovered he still wanted to sell. At the outset, however, he had no belief he ever could have become a good salesman. The memory of past failures inhibited him, and I had to help him break those self inflicted mental blocks and see not what he had been, but what he could be. We talked for some time, and meanwhile, my own man was busily at work. My man was not weakened by hunger or hopelessness. There had been a time when my man had known as such despair as did this, as did his. But now I was filled with success consciousness, questioning about my uninhibited mind. Remember that special new kinds of footwear were now being developed. A new kind of cookware of great benefit to the housewife, a man who could think about cooking and even demonstrate, a man who could be made into a good salesman, and there we had the winning combination. Suppose you represented a company that makes a new kind of aluminum cookware aside. This cookware offers many advantages. It should be seen in action, then it will practically sell itself. Any housewife with small consideration, say some free pots or pans for her own use, should be glad to invite her neighbors in for a home cooked dinner. You cook that dinner with a special cookware, and after dinner, you take orders for complete mashed sides. If 20 ladies are present, I'm sure you could induce half of them to purchase. Some of these would be eager to run similar dinner parties in their own homes. The business would become self-perpetuating. Okay, sounds okay. My young soldier friend replied, but where am I going to sleep meanwhile? And where am I going to eat? And where am I going to get a few clean shirts or a new suit? Not to mention the question of where I am going to get some money or credit to get started on. Such questions are typical of mind which does not yet know itself, and so sums up all the obstacles rather than looking directly at the goal. Get yourself into the right frame of mind, I sighed, and you will either find what you need or find a way to do without and still achieve your goal. When your man can truly picture a desired goal and feel success consciousness driving it toward that goal, you can win that goal. Let us put aside all other matters and investigate your state of mind. Actually, the young man was very close to having the desired positive state of mind. I waited till I was sure he had it. However, then I said it was a good risk, and I gave him the use of our guest room and his meals. I left him use my large account and Marshall Field so that he could be well dressed. I guaranteed his note for his first outfit cookware. During his first week, he cleared nearly $100 in profit. The second week, he doubled that amount. In a little while, he began to train other men and women whom he managed. Most of all, he instilled in them the success consciousness, which now had full hold of his mind. And as they prospered, so did he. At the end of 4 years, the young man who had been so hungry and broken spirited, so very far from being a millionaire, was worth more than $4 million. Moreover, his newly lean and keen and efficient man had perfected a home demonstration selling plan, which now nets millions of dollars annually to a large corps of salespeople. When the bells of heaven ring with joy, when the man finds his own man and fills it with a successful consciousness, or when another man helps him do so, I fancy that the bells of heaven ring with joy. Here is one more soul who has broken the chains forged by his fearful imagination. Now you can see why I chose to begin this book by revealing what it means to take possession of your own man, live your own life, find your real self that has no limitations. When you do this, you have an asset worth Whatever values you choose to make it worth. Whatever values you choose to make it worth. Think again of what is involved in creating an independent nation. Think of ancient India with its teeming millions under British rule for generation after generation. Think of the Mahatma Gandhi, a man who had no money, controlled no army, did not own a house, did not even own a pair of pants, yet he had an asset which was greater than all the might of the British Empire, the capacity to take possession of his own land and direct it toward purposes of his own choosing. He chose to free India, and he lived to see the achievement of his purpose. Thanks to the influence of Gandhi, my successful personal achievement now has many millions of followers in India. Whether your goal is money, the well-being of others, or a combination of these, as well it may be, know that there is nothing beyond the power of a man that knows itself and believes in its own capacities. The spiritual defenses within the castle of your mind. The spiritual defenses within the castle of your mind. I have purposely used the word defenses in order to call your attention in its varying meanings. A man that is on the defensive is not an open mind. It is more likely to be a frightened man, full of excuses and evasions, and hardly capable of lifting its assessors' eyes to the far horizons of accomplishments. In speaking of spiritual defenses, then I speak of nothing that is negative. Rather, I speak of certain areas within which one may withdraw and thus become more completely oneself. Every successful person I have known has surrounded himself with these spiritual defenses in one way or another. I adopted the system and have found it invaluable. Here is how it works. Consider your man to be laid out in a pattern of some medieval castles. Medieval castles. At the center, there is a tower or keep, which is impregnable as it can be made. Going outward from the keep, you would come to a wall not so formidable, and again, going outward, you would come to another wall, which serves as the first line of defense. Person approaching the castle first would have to pass the outer wall, the wall of spiritual defense in your mind, in order to be very high. Anyone who has a legitimate excuse for entering your mind with his ideas can climb this wall. If he does not have a legitimate excuse, however, the wall discourages him. When you set up such a wall, others come to know it is there and you give yourself a valuable protection. A person who passes the first line of defense now confronts the second line, which you may set up on certain occasions and not on others. When your man sets up this wall, nobody may climb it unless that person has something strongly in common with you or something importantly beneficial to share with you at the moment. The inmost castle of protection is the most important of all. It is small, barely big enough to surround you, But when your mind retreats within, the keep is removed from every outside influence. With me, only the creator can penetrate my inmost spiritual castle. Find yours and you find a source of great strength. Here is where you can find your inmost thoughts undisturbed, undisturbed by outside influences. And until you find this castle, you never can know them. Here is what you can search all the values of a problem and find a solution which otherwise you might not see. Here especially is where your fully possessed mind reveals what can be done. And when you come out of your retreat, you know that it will be done and you do it. At first, you may find it necessary to retreat physically from the world into a quiet room or perhaps to some place distant from your business and from people who know you. This often is a good idea, even when you have practice in finding the most privacy of your man, because there are many physical circumstances which break into thought. When you have several times retreated to your thick walled keep, however, you will find you can enter it for a few seconds, even in the midst of others who are talking all around you. I have been I have seen many successful men do this, and thus illustrate some of the power to which they owe their success. It is a great renewer of the spirit, a kind of recharge of ability and self-conscious and abiding faith. All that I have to say in this book is key to one superior 超级 secret supreme su, supreme secret. This secret has been strongly sketched in throughout this chapter. You have seen it, and already it is beginning to penetrate your subconscious mind, which never forgets. Tracking on chapter 1. Never believe you don't have what it takes. A man who succeeds in life must know where he is going, must fully possess his own man, and believe with full faith that this is it. Knowing this, he can shunt aside any outside influences which may attempt to discourage him. Even the voice of authority speaking to a child cannot prevail against a man that knows himself. Even a child who is a potential criminal can be directed toward the honest and successful life when you show him his own vast potential for making good. Adversity, it's a tonic, not a stumbling block. Life often brings hardship and discouragement, but the man that knows itself becomes filled with a success consciousness that never is lost. You can help yourself by setting up a time limit within which you will achieve great goals. Even an un, unforeseeable world war may not prove a great enough obstacle to prevail against this mighty personal achievement technique. Okay. A success conscious man functions rapidly and effectively once you fill your mind with your self directed success consciousness. You achieve a level of man efficiency which does not depend on formal education. Seeing your preferred goal ahead of you, you're magnificently able to find ways to get what you want. For a pioneer of the automobile age, or a pioneer in the construction of modern computer parts, the principle which makes your man work rapidly and effectively is always the same. A success consciousness man. Success conscious man. Success conscious man. Can success consciousness be instilled into another's mind? Even the most discouraged and beaten man can have all his success potential revived when another man, full of success consciousness, evokes the same great power in his. Believe in success, not in obstacles to success, can spread from one man to another until millions share the same great goal. The spiritual defenses within the castle of your man, within your own man, can set up three spiritual walls which are stronger than stone. Within these walls, your man can know itself and be itself and still absorb all the good constructive influences you wish to bring in. It will be proof against unwanted negative influences, time wasting, and the like. Within your innermost wall, you will always have the means to renew your spirit, recharge your confidence and faith. Never believe you don't have what it takes. Adversity, it's a tonic, not a stumbling block. A success conscious man functions rapidly and effectively once you fill your man with your self directed success consciousness. And the success consciousness can be instilled into another's man. The spiritual defenses within the castle of your man, within your own man, you can set up three spiritual walls, just stronger than stone. 以上就是《Grow Rich with Peace of Mind》本书第一章。下一次我们接着阅读第二章，Close the doors on your past。下次再见。